Hello and thank you for joining OBN Horn of Africa. This is our weekly program Diplomacy and I'm Fantambelete hosting this program. Today I'm joined by Ambassador Lalisa Birhanu, the newly appointed ambassador who was appointed by the President Sahle-Work Zewde to Ethiopian embassy in London. Till the end of our program, stay with us. Ambassador, welcome to this program and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Before we dive into our today's discussion, would you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Ambassador Lalisa Birhanu. I'm serving my country almost for the last close to 2 decades in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And also I serve with the Ethiopian embassy in Brussels, which covers European Union and the Benelux country, Belgium, Brussels, and Luxembourg, some years back. So I've been around in this field for the last close to 2 decades.
You are among the newly appointed ambassadors. How is the ambassadorial appointment given the ongoing reform is different from the previous ones? And what changes have been made to the selection process and criteria for ambassadors under the current administration?
We call it a designated ambassador because still I'm in home. So until you start your job in our profession, we call it a designated ambassador. But after you take over your official duty, appointed ambassador. So that is what I would like to refer before I start to reflect on your questions. Having said this, the most significant change of this time is that all the new appointed ambassadors are diplomatic carriers, those who have been served their beloved country, both at home and overseas missions in different countries and different continents. So 100% all appointed ambassadors are from the ministry. This is the very reflection of our current Prime Minister foreign policy approach. He's always trying to change things in a very pragmatic way. So in the old days, even in the history of this nation, we have been practicing this diplomacy by opening consulates, legation, then embassies for the last 160 years. And all this state history, most of the time the ambassadors are appointed out of the ministry too. In fact, some countries have also this experience, but in our case, in recent years, especially before change, it was giving this post for kind of pushing some politicians or for appeasing those who are not happy at home. But now the Prime Minister is trying to align his government, those who can face the ongoing challenges both at home, at region, at continental, at global level. So what makes a difference is to make this thing very short. All appointed ambassadors are from the ministry. They are career diplomats. They served overseas missions and at home more than 4 years. And they are selected based on their excellence. And they delivered. That is what we heard. And they are also expected to deliver in their diplomatic endeavor for the future. What they delivered yesterday, they are also expected to deliver in the time to come. Regarding the criteria, they are young, they are experienced, educational background, and the other parameters, what we have to see in this appointment, most of these new appointed ambassadors are young and the middle age, so they are also expected to serve their country for so long time, minimum 50 years, 20 years, or more than that. So that also encourage, motivate others, young generation, those who are coming behind us, and to aspire to have a good hope for this profession.
Did the appointment process take inclusiveness into consideration, and how has the government ensured diversity and representation in its diplomacy course?
Oh, that is a very good question. The government tried all its best to have inclusive appointments. When we call or when we mention diversity, diversity is maybe it's about gender, about nationalities or what we call ethnicity, religion. All these things are the reflection of what we call inclusion. So the government tried all its best to bring from all different societies or from different groups without compromising quality. So they are trying to balance everything. So, you know, inclusion is very good. When we came from different background, from different societies, from different culture, language, it is good to have very good intelligence, good understanding, to have common understanding. So that is also, by the way, one part of the reform in this country, in which the government is working on it aggressively to diversify our civil service at the federal level especially. So it also aligns with ongoing reform on the public service, but without compromising meritocracy and the quality. Just you cannot diversify for the sake of diversifying. If you compromise quality, meritocracy, because the diplomacy is art by itself. Diplomacy is a skill. This is a science. Someone has to have a very good presence. Someone has to, if you are a diplomat or ambassador, you have to communicate well. You have to be articulative. You have to translate the government message to the third bodies in a very appropriate way, in a very professional way. So the government gives the first priority for all this, because if you give someone just because of diversity, you may compromise, you have high chance of compromising the national interest of your nation. So yes, the government tried all its best without compromising, as I said, the quality and the meritocracy of the profession needs. Yeah.
Ethiopia has been making significant strides in leveraging digital platforms for diplomacy. Could you elaborate on the country's approach to digital diplomacy and how it has enhanced it, please?
From the beginning, regarding this digitalization issue, we are living in a digital era, in information era. That's clear. You cannot escape it. You have to face it. You have to practice it. You have to customize it. So, in that order, we are in good hand as a country, because our Prime Minister, he has a good passion. He has a good orientation, a good understanding, and he also practiced on this area from his professional endeavor. So that is the good thing we have at the top of the nation. We have a good leadership in that order. Second, at the national level, even Ethiopia, we have Digital Ethiopia 2025. Not only for diplomacy, for all things, for our agriculture, for our social issue, for our economy, for our culture, for everything that we have, we need to use digitalization. So we have a policy at the national level. So foreign policy in the diplomacy is one element of our national digital Ethiopia 2025, and which may be furthered. I hope the government has a plan to review it. This is another thing. The third point I would like to raise, Luckily, we start this digitalization issue, especially regarding managing the risk, protecting the country's infrastructure. You know, this day the cyber attack has no border. In the old days, in the conventional hardware, the military, they may took some mountains, some strategic position, so you can spot it, you can prepare your own defense or offense mechanism. But digital, in the digital world, there is no boundary. One can attack you from some elsewhere, from Latin America or from Asia. Maybe a young or some teenagers can do that. So luckily, 70 years ago, we established as a country the INSA, you know INSA. And even our current Prime Minister was, he worked there, and I think he played a pivotal role even to change that institution. So this institution is working aggressively to protect, to minimize our risk that Ethiopia may face in the cyberspace and the cyber security, on social media, and enhancing understanding of the cyber security. We have been working, and it is evolving, and it is growing in a very substantial way, developing effectiveness of the digital diplomacy, and this contribution to our very nation. If you remember, during the North War, we used the hashtag no more. So it evoked, it energized, even it reintroduced the Pan-Africanism, which Ethiopia played a great role in the 60s, 50s, especially in the decolonization. So all these African Americans, Caribbeans, and there's a progressive people all over the world, it's no more, no more. So that is also the way we enhance it and used it efficiently and effectively. And we are also trying to improve the ability to utilize these social media platforms, as I said, yeah. And we are trying to foster this culture of cyber security, and it is practice. We are trying to foster it. We are trying to customize it. So that is where we are when it comes to digital diplomacy. But not only this. This is only about the technology. When, why, where to use it. We have all that understanding now. And the country, even the institution, both INSA and the artificial intelligence, is led by experts, those who grow, like I came from attaché, secretary to all this ambassadorial posts in my ministry. The same thing is there in artificial intelligence as well as in our INSA institution. The institution in the hands of experts, even not politicians, so they know what to do, when to do, why to do, all such like things. So having said this, when we think about digital diplomacy, artificial intelligence, about diplomacy of this era, in the old day, diplomacy is conventional. It is face to face. Now it is changed. So we are, and in the old days, the approach was from the bottom, from up to bottom, from up to down. In this era, in the digital diplomacy era, things are from bottom to up. So the government must monitor, especially our institutions, those who work on this area. They have to monitor, they have to regulate, and provide that for a very good informative decision for the government. So we are trying to practice digital traditional diplomacy, which was conventional, and we are also equally trying to domesticate, practice, customize these new things. This is what I would like to say. But we are also trying to see what are the agendas in the digital diplomacy era. There are a lot of emerging agendas within the international order. For example, there is what they call tech diplomacy, technology diplomacy. As we speak, 50 countries opened embassies, consulate in San Francisco Bay Area in the United States, and some of them they are opening in Shenzhen in China, when there is in the area of technologies hub to closely follow up. So we are trying to see such like agenda. So what are we going to do in that order? There are also this digital geoeconomy, digital geopolitics, science diplomacy. So we are trying to see all the substantive things, the agendas within the digital diplomacy. There are also actors. For example, if you take Google, Google transformed how people access information in our time. Maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's very difficult for people to get information. Now you know what Google is doing. So they are actors. Google CEOs are actors. Facebook CEOs are actors. They are multinational companies. They have huge capacity, technology, knowledge, all things what we not have now. So we are trying to see even the actors. You can see the CEO and the owner of X, the former Twitter, Elon Musk, how he influenced across the world. A single word he say or he tweet on X can influence young generation, old generation, middle generation, all the millennials and many things from all yokes of society, from different religions, ethnicity, nations. So we are trying to look the actors, who are they, what are they doing, and how we are going to work with them. Because we cannot avoid and we cannot escape. The only thing we have to face this reality, because we are living in this phenomenon. So we are not only focusing in the digital diplomacy only on the technologies, or not only on tools, but also we are trying to see on the substantive matters. If you remember, in 2023, this year in 2024, we had this showcase of Ethiopian Diplomacy Week. So it has three parts: ancient diplomacy, the current diplomacy.
Yeah, I
the
remember
future
that was held in Science Museum.
Yeah. And the third part was the future diplomacy. So we are trying to project as we advance to the future. So we are not only focusing on the technology, on this smartphone or on computer. We are also trying to see all the actors in the agendas. And equally, the government is working on the policy, working on the monitoring, working on the regulation. Even now we have another telecom operator. For 125 years, we used to have only one telecom operator, that was Ethiopian Telecom. Now we have a Safaricom, and the government is aspiring and planning to have more operator, because we have a chance. In one way, it's an economic investment and economic diplomacy. On the other, we are trying to moving to another territory where we get more international experience when it comes to regulation and the technology transfer. So that is where we are when it comes to technology.
Ethiopia has implemented homegrown economic reforms in its foreign relations. How are these reforms aimed at diversifying the country's economy, attracting foreign direct investment, and promoting trade partnerships with other nations?
Okay. You know, following the change of the government in 2018, the country's economy was almost on the verge of collapse. It was not good. So the government came up with this homegrown economic reform 1.0. Then in this first stage strategy. It aims to enhance the productivity of different sectors as well as the competitiveness of the overall economy for the gradual transition, especially from the public monopoly to the private-led economy. That was the major departure taken by our Prime Minister. For example, Safaricom is the best example for this.
Ethiopia is also working on privatization. That's why Safaricom came to Ethiopia. So would you tell us about that, please?
Still, the government is trying to intervene on some areas, but before 2080, the intervention was so huge. So, in the modern economy, in the liberal world, most countries try to give things transfer to the private, so it will be productive. It is very competitive in many ways. That is why the Prime Minister moved. It is very major departure, by the way. And they took 3 key reform areas in this. It's a very objective thing. One is the microeconomic reform, the big economy to ensure growth, especially in the financial sector. The second reform area was on the sectoral reform, was also undertaken in a very substantive way, such as agriculture, manufacturing, mining, tourism, and the digital economy. This is where the area government focused to transform the country's economy. The other thing, what the government did, if you remember, before 2080, there was embezzlement. If you take Metek, we know all that, and there's a great Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. It is our flagship project, which consumed a lot of billions of Ethiopian birr, but really the leadership was not good. That is also, it is almost on finalization stage now. There was high debt stress on Ethiopian government. So the Prime Minister took action, especially in this microeconomic management. So on the last 5 years, the government, 6 years, the government totally stopped to take any credit, any borrowing that bring stress on the nation's economy, on our society. So that is the way they try to diversify and trying to look other loops which I may not mention it. So now we are also the Prime Minister, the government is also working with the IMF and the World Bank. Now they're coming back to support Ethiopian economic reforms, especially this homegrown reform. So the most important thing, there is no stress now. Even the government is, while we are some internal challenges, internal conflict, the government is even paying back all the what we are supposed to pay for foreign governments or international organizations that we borrowed. So the government is efficiently and effectively paying back for either World Bank, IMF, or for Chinese government, or other those who finance us, especially by commercial. This is why they say commercial loan. So that we are trying to get this constitutional law. Even that is the way we are trying to diversify our sources. Yeah. We have also achievement in this homegrown economic reform. We are increasing our tax revenue. Our export is growing. If you may heard a week ago or 2 weeks ago, while our Prime Minister addressed the Parliament, almost each and every year our export is growing by 50%, 1.5. So that is one thing we achieved through this economic reform. We also improved the investment climate. Really, the government is moving fast. The government is opening restricted area for foreigners, which is good for us in many ways. We are also increasing and diversifying our growth. So that is what we, in the last 6 or 5 years, so the homegrown economic reform has pillars, objectives, and equally we have also a great achievement in that order.
What strategies are in place to achieve these objectives?
In fact, we have strategic pillars starting from the grassroots. So we have such like the government has such like strategies, and we are also working to access to justice in the efficient civil service and regional peace building and economic integration. Now we have, before we have no a ministry that work day and night on the regional integration. Now we have that ministry too. So this is because as we are working on our home, we are also trying to project, because Ethiopia is a big country in this region, historically, politically, in many ways. Ethiopia was a locomotive for economic integration, for example, energy integration to Sudan, Kenya, Djibouti, and there is also a lot of plan in that order. So that is the way we are trying to project Fantown.
You are among the newly appointed ambassadors. How are you planning to serve your country?
I'm really honored and privileged to serve this very ancient country, sovereign nation, proud people, icon for the black nation. I served before in Belgium, really as a son of farmer, as a country boy, someone who went to school maybe at 10 or 11 years old. I have never been to KG, but I thank my government for this opportunity. So I'm ready to serve with this great honor, really. As I said before, it is great honor and a privilege for me. This is not my first time to go overseas to serve my country. I've been to different countries for official meeting, for conference, and also I served in Belgium. So I have good experience of that area, and also I have good role models, exemplary ambassadors, those who achieved a lot. So I'm also trying to talk to them to share experience as I advance to pursue my new post, my new responsibility in my professional endeavor.
Ambassador Lalisa Birhanu, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too.
Dear viewers, that's all from us for now. Thank you for watching and stay connected with other programs of OBN Horn of Africa.